Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. All right, thank you so much for coming. My name is Kristen Kent. Does it help if I do that? Yeah. Okay. My name is Kristen Kent. I'm part of the resident engagement team here at the Hearthstone. I was born Kristen Bruemmer, one of 5 Bruemmer kids who grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. The oldest of us is Steve. He studied electrical engineering at Notre Dame. Oh, there he is. Hi, Steve. And went on to work in computers, IT, and education for the next 35 plus years. He retired in 2020, and he had about a year and a half where he structured his life around outdoor exercise with groups of people, swimming, biking, and running every day. And then 1.5 years into his retirement, his life took a very big, very unexpected turn. How many of you were here in the room for My Big Brother Got Bit by a Shark Part 1? Okay, a lot of you. Most of them, Steve. Hey. So this is My Brother Got Bit by a Shark Part 2. That's the title I gave it just for continuity. But in fact, Steve is ready to really tell the whole story himself. And he has titled it My Year as the Shark Guy. So Steve, thank you for being here. Steve is an IT guy, so on our end, it's just me. So if we have issues, he's going to guide me through it. If you can't hear, if you want to repeat something, if you raise your hand, I'll ask him to do that, and we'll get through this together. Welcome, Steve. You're on, Steve.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Kristen, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here to listen to this little story. I can't see you at all. So if you have questions, if you can't hear me, please notify Kristen and she will notify me and we'll get the thing worked out. First off, can you all hear me? Yeah. Wonderful. And you can see the screen, My Year as the Shark Guy, a story of survival and gratitude, right?
I'm going to turn the lights off in just a minute. We have something to do first. Then you'll
okay, great. Well, this is starting at the on June 22nd, 2022, a year and a half ago. That's when the incident occurred. I was swimming in the ocean and had my encounter. I always get the same 2 questions. People always ask, how big was that shark? How big was the shark? Now, I can give you the numbers, but they don't do it justice. So Kristen has a visual aid to help you understand the size of the shark. Kristen? Oh. Oh. Wow. Okay, I can't see, but I think Kristen and team have shown the shark. That is a 15-foot shark. It weighed probably 2,000 pounds. I asked Kristen if she would show on her body where the shark's mouth bit me. So its upper jaw came across my lower abdomen and thighs. So hopefully there's a little visual aid so you get the picture of how it did wind up biting me. The second question I often get is, will I swim again? I swam for a dozen years. I love ocean swimming. Will I swim again? People ask. To which I respond, didn't you see the visual aid? Heck no, I'm not going back in that water. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Kristen, for the visual aid. No. Okay. Well, I think we've had our introduction, so I'm going to move on to the story. Lover's Point is where the whole thing is centered. Lover's Point is at the southern end of the Monterey Bay. And Monterey Bay is on the central California coast, about 100 miles south of San Francisco. And it's here where the group of swimmers called the kelp crawlers swim pretty much every day. The big group swims on Sunday, but there are half a dozen people that swim from the Lovers Point beach every day. And I had been a member of the kelp crawlers for a dozen years. I swam basically every Sunday when I was working. And then once I retired a year and a half before the incident, I was swimming typically twice a week. In the summertime in Pacific Grove, in the southern part of the Monterey Bay, the summers are cold. It's typically foggy, windy. Highs would be in the mid 60s typically. The water will be in the 50s, oftentimes 55 to 57, something like that. So the summertime is not really such a magnificent time to swim. It's going to be foggy. Except on June 22nd, 2022, a year and a half ago, I woke up and the day was spectacular. I was not planning to swim at Lover's Point, but the day was utterly gorgeous. No clouds, no fog, no wind, no waves, no chop in the ocean. Just a spectacular warm day, high 60s by 9 in the morning. So I decided, instead of going to the swimming pool like I was planning, I went over to Lover's Point to swim. But the surprising thing was no other kelp crawlers were there. Now, I almost never swim by myself, just 3 or 4 times over the dozen years. You don't swim by yourself. I don't. Other people do. Um, but that day, no one else was there. Such a gorgeous day. I decided to swim and, of course, just stick close to shore. As I was getting in, one of the other kelp crawlers was getting out. He had swum at 8:30, named Samuel. He got out at 8:30. He'd done an hour swim by himself. We high-fived and I got in and I started to swim. Of course, I'm wearing a wetsuit and goggles and neoprene caps and booties because that water's cold. I started here at the beach, this main beach at Lover's Point. Can you see my cursor there, Kristen? You can see where I'm pointing?
Yeah, I'm
Great.
gonna get a laser pointer.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
So
good.
So I started right here at the beach and I swam straight out around this jetty. Now that's about 75 yards from the beach to the tip of the jetty is about 75 yards. And then I made a left turn to come out here around this point. This is called Lover's Point. And if you're if you're thinking, oh, what a typically California name to name that Lover's Point, I should tell you its full name is Lovers of Jesus Point. As Pacific Grove was started as a Methodist retreats area. So I swam out past the jetty and then I turned left and I went around Lover's Point and I went through the next cove. Here's an overview, an aerial view of the swim that I did. This was recorded on my watch on Strava. I started at this green dot, that's the main Lover's Point beach. And I went out the 75 yards around the jetty, turned left past the other beach at Lover's Point. And I went around the point, and then I went all the way out to a spot, it's called Otter Point or Far Rock. And that's about 3/4 of a mile. And then I turned back and came back around basically the same way. And I should tell you that this swim is utterly gorgeous. When you come around the jetty, you often see fish. And in this next little section next to the point, there are lots of purple sea urchins, which are very pretty, although they're eating everything. Out here at the end of Lover's Point, you see sea stars, lots of them, big sea stars, bigger than twice the size of your hand. Lots of sea grasses along this next area. And then prettiest of all is the kelp, the giant kelp of the Monterey Bay, the kelp that the otters need, that they live in, the kelp that provides the shelter for the great diversity of life in the Monterey Bay. It is gorgeous on a sunny day. The water was blue, the kelp is gold, the sun shines through it. It's absolutely beautiful. As I swam back around the point, I noticed a little bit of waves against the point, so I went a little wider. No big deal. This is completely normal. I got back to where this white arrow is, and I had been just gliding through the water, having the most gorgeous swim, relaxing and beautiful, when all of a sudden, at that point, just wham, something happened. Wham! I was thrown up into the air and tossed and head over. I didn't know what was up. I couldn't tell what was going on. and I was up in the air and then dove down into the water. Well, what happened is a great white shark, a 15-foot, 2,000-pound great white shark, had come up from below me in predation, in ambush, and caught me as it was coming upwards and came completely out of the water with me in its mouth. Here's a picture to give you an idea. This is not me, but this is what happened. The great white shark from below came up all the way out of the water, me in its mouth, and then dove down and dropped me and dove back down with me in its mouth. 5-10 feet down, I'm not sure how far, it spit me out. I'm not its food. It's looking for a seal. It spit me out. And I was underwater and I could see darkness below me, and I could see light, so I knew which way was up. And then I looked to my right, and there it was, an arm's length away. This enormous head, I can't describe how big it is from top to bottom. It's just enormous. And I saw the black eye, and I remember I saw teeth, these sharp teeth, but only on its bottom jaw. And I later wondered, did I remember it incorrectly? No, I remembered it correctly. It was very, very obviously a great white shark. I volunteer at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We show 7-gill sharks and we show hammerheads and other kinds of sharks. They're sleek, not this one. This has an enormous head. It's about power and strength, not about sleekness through the water. I was an arm's length away from it, but amazingly, I did not panic. I had air in my lungs. It had brought me, first, I hadn't been swimming all that fast, so I was not worn out. I was not out of breath. And it had lifted me up in the air. I assume I got a nice breath while I was in the air. And when it put me down, so I didn't need air. But also I was completely calm looking at this thing. I was looking at its eye and it was looking at me and it was bobbing its head back and forth slowly like it was thinking of biting me again. And I was literally in that moment thinking, don't bite me. I've got on a white hat. I'm wearing goggles. I taste of neoprene. For heaven's sakes, I'm not a seal. Don't bite me again. And then I remembered you're supposed to punch them if you can. Well, I tried, but it was just out of reach. My fist wouldn't quite get there. But with my fingers extended, I was able to jab its lower jaw several times. And I tried to kick at it. I believe I kicked at it, although I'm not sure how I could have because my stomach and my legs were ripped out. But I think I kicked at it, and then it was gone. I don't remember it swimming away, but it was just gone. So I got myself up to the surface, and I'm gonna go to the next slide because I'm tired of looking at that shark. I got myself to the surface, and I didn't feel pain, but I thought I'm really badly hurt. I was on the surface, paddling to keep my legs up. I didn't want it to bite me again, and I could see my left thigh. From the knee halfway down the thigh, where there should have been wetsuit, there should have been skin, was nothing but blood. And I could feel my belly. I could feel my legs and my arm. There was so much blood. I knew I was very, very badly hurt. And there was not a way in the world I could swim that last 150 yards back to the beach. All I could do was yell for help and hope that someone could come save me. So I started yelling, just help, just as loud as I could. And I could hear the terror, the emotion in my own voice. Help, help, just as loud as I could. On the beach, the other beach, not the main beach, the other beach, just on the other side of the jetty, there was a woman vacationing from North Carolina, an ICU nurse. She heard the yells. She's a swimmer. She's an ocean swimmer. She heard me yelling and she started into the water. She said, there's a guy drowning. I can help him. She got into the water, got chest deep, and realized that, wait a minute, he's not drowning. Those yells for help are not weak. Those are strong. He's not drowning. And from chest deep in the water, she could see this circle of blood around me. And she realized, oh, that's a shark. And as much as she wanted to, she could not swim to me. She turned around and went back to the beach. I'm out in the water yelling, help, help. And no one, I couldn't see anyone coming. Yeah, it's a terrible vantage point in the water. You can't see much, but it's a flat day. No one was coming. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, no one. And Noelle, this ICU nurse, she sees no one coming. She thinks she's the only one that can save me. She went back in the water a second time, got chest deep again, saw the blood and said, no, I can't do it. 2 people are going to die if I go out there. She turned back around and went back to the beach. I was yelling and yelling. I didn't think I'm going to die, but I knew that I really could die. And I thought to myself, I don't want to die like this. I don't want to die in terror. I don't want to die in fear. I don't want to die like this. But no one was coming. Noelle started in a third time. And I'm so glad she didn't swim to me. The third time in, she saw a paddleboarder coming from the side. So she got out. She got out and she climbed over that jetty to the main beach, grabbed someone's long sleeve t-shirt, turned it into a tourniquet and waited for me to be brought to the shore. Out in the water, I turned to the right and I saw this paddleboarder coming toward me. He was yelling, he said to me. He told me later, I don't remember, but he was yelling. I turned to him and saw him and I thought, okay, I've got a chance. I could feel the life leaving from me. There was so much blood. I knew I didn't have much. In this picture on the right, you can see when 2 people got to me. From that main beach, there was a guy named Heath, a surf rescue guy. He was there doing a ocean safety and appreciation class for a bunch of Kansas grade school kids. And when they saw, not the kids, but one of the parents saw the shark jump entirely out of the water and said to Heath, you got to help that guy. Heath knew exactly what to do. He grabbed 2 surfboards, stacked them one on top of the other, and paddled toward me. From the other side, from the Lover's Point side, there were 2 people paddleboarding. And they heard me yelling and they came straight toward me. This is unbelievable. But the people that were there, the people that heard me yelling, one was a surf rescue guy, Heath. Paul is a first responder, a police officer. And Amy, his wife, is a nurse, a healthcare professional, a first responder, and a surf safety guy were the people that heard me and were able to come to me safely on boards. Amy and Paul live in Sacramento. They were in Pacific Grove that day celebrating their 12th wedding anniversary and just happened to be in the right spot at the right time. The 3 of them got me onto the paddle boards, got me onto the spare board that Heath had, and they brought me to shore. Heath knew exactly what to do. He lay down on his stomach on the one board, had me lay down on the other. It was hard to get me on the board. I was in and out of consciousness. But he said, grab my heel. And so I grabbed his heel and he started paddling. You can see in this picture, there are 2 surfboards. I hope you can see it. He's on the lead surfboard lying down. I'm on the second surfboard lying down, holding onto his heel. And you can see there's a third person. That's Amy. Amy saw as Heath was paddling that I was going to fall off the surfboard. So she jumped off of her paddleboard, the relative safety of her paddleboard, got on halfway onto my surfboard, holding my legs in place with half her body in the water. Blood's pouring off of me. She's half in the water and she had to kick to add propulsion. She felt like she was chumming the water with her own feet. They got me to shore where, oh, and I should, let me back up. I should say, you don't see Paul in this picture. He's a first responder. He brought his cell phone in a waterproof bag. He called 911 from the paddleboard so that the ambulance would be there quickly. They got me to shore where the people on the shore put tourniquets on me. You might wonder how do they know to put tourniquets? Well, one, Noelle, the ICU nurse from North Carolina, she was there. She'd scrambled over the jetty. But also on the beach, vacationing independently, was another ICU nurse from Kansas and a doctor from Detroit. The 3 of them, plus Amy, put the tourniquets on me. Noelle put the tourniquet on my left leg. We later learned from her, she looked at me and she thought, well, obviously, he's going to lose that left leg. And she said she looked at my face and it was gray, which she says is a very, very bad sign. She thought that I would die. And she thought if I didn't die, then certainly I was going to have brain damage from lack of blood and oxygen to my brain. This despite the fact that it took a grand total of 5 minutes from the time I was bitten to the time they got these tourniquets securely on my arms and legs. I should say, apparently tourniquets typically hurt people, and oftentimes they're not put on tight enough because it's painful. I didn't even know tourniquets were on me. I was mostly unconscious. There's this guy bending over in front of me without his shirt. His shirt was used to stuff my belly, the wound on my belly. He was trying to keep me awake. He was saying, "What's your name?" And he said I could moan a bit. And he saw my face going blue. He took off my mask and goggles and threw them off to the side and slapped me a bit, trying to keep me with him. The ambulance crew arrived, and they whisked me to the ambulance. A lead-footed ambulance driver got me 28 miles to the Natividad Trauma Center, 59 minutes after the shark bite. 59 minutes. I was on the operating room table, nurses and surgeons at my side, starting to save my life. 59 minutes, 28 miles. I find that truly amazing. This is the surgeon one of the two surgeons that worked on me. I'm going to play the sound. I'm going to play just a little bit of his interview.
Otherwise, his wounds were actually mostly muscle and subcutaneous tissue. There wasn't
Kristen, is that working? Okay.
much
Hold on.
any organ damage or arterial.
It's glitchy.
But you can hear, so I'm gonna turn it on and just listen to the sound.
Okay.
Damage or bone damage. So he got very, very lucky. Probably one of the luckiest patients I've seen in the last decade, honestly. But he just has to stay in good spirits and continue to heal.
How much worse could it have been?
It could have been much, much worse. He could have not made it out of the water. The injuries that he had were easy for us to fix, but if they had been much deeper, if it severed a major artery, he could have bled out in the water before even getting to shore. So it could have been much, much worse.
Wow. And is this like one of those things that we hear, an inch away from an artery, a couple of inches away from a major artery puncture?
This was millimeters, a millimeter away from an artery. Actually, in one of the open wounds on his abdomen, you could see clearly one of the major arteries that feeds the leg on the right side, and that was clearly exposed as if a surgeon had dissected it. So this laceration was literally millimeters away from killing him.
My wife didn't know about this. She is a physician working at the Big Sur Health Center. There's no Wi-Fi there's no cell phone coverage in Big Sur. So all these text messages were going around from the kelp crawlers from the swim group, but she didn't know anything about it. The police, I didn't have any identification on me. The police found a car in the parking lot at Lover's Point that wasn't moving. They ran the plates. They got to my house and saw that and found some mail in the mailbox to Brita. They Googled her and then called down to her office. Now this was 5 hours after the injury. By then I was already out of surgery and I was going to be okay. So thankfully she didn't have to go through the worry of whether I would live or not. She went to the hospital, and this is me in the ICU. They kept me in a coma overnight. They have a feeding tube in there. They're warming me up because I was 91 degrees. That water's cold, and I had been out in there with no blood for quite a while. The next morning, I woke up. They woke me up at 6:30 in the morning, pulled the tube out, and I asked 2 questions. First is, will I live? I mean, at this point, I knew nothing. I knew almost nothing. I knew I'd been bitten by a great white shark. I knew that I was in severe danger. They said, yes, you'll live. And then the second question. And this question I recommend anyone, if you ever find yourself in this situation where you were nearly killed, and then you come out of they take you out of the coma, and they ask, do you have any questions? This question is a really good one. Where's my wife? I don't know how long the goodwill lasts from asking that question, but I do know that it lasts at least a year and a half. When the first thought on your mind is, where's my wife? Your spouse responds very well. At least that's my experience. So I knew almost nothing at this point. And I didn't know anything about how I had survived or what happened really. I didn't know why I had been bitten. And I also had all sorts of questions about the future. Will I walk again? What are going to be the effects to me and to my family and to the rescuers? And what about the kelp crawlers? Are they ever going to swim again? There's been a shark bite where we always swam. And of course, what lessons will I learn? And all of that, all of these questions and more fueled the next year of my life as I tried to recover from this thing. Kristen, are we doing okay?
We're doing great. Yes.
Thank you. I'll keep going. And no questions at this point? We're fine?
All good. Keep going.
Great. So I'm not going to be able to answer all those questions. I'm just going to pick and choose a few highlights from those things. But the first one is, why did I survive? And of course, I survived because those good Samaritans that risked their lives to save a stranger because of the tourniquets. But the thing I want to point out here is how incredibly good our system was. 911, in a typical emergency these days, in a typical trauma, you don't need a good Samaritan. You don't need tourniquets, can be nice, but what you really need is somebody with a phone. You call 911, the ambulance arrives, they take you to the trauma center, and with the help of the blood donors, they save your life. What an incredible system that we have. Here's a picture of the three heroes. That's Heath on the left. He's the surfer, the surf rescue guy. In the middle is Amy. She's the nurse. And on the right, that's Paul. Amy and Paul are the couple, and Paul's the first responder. Risked their lives to save a stranger. They have young kids, and they didn't hesitate. They didn't hesitate. They knew what was happening, and they came to me anyway. Amazing. I had not been a regular blood donor. I sort of skated by. I was sort of unaware that I was living on the kindness of strangers, that they were donating blood. I have changed my ways, and I encourage you, don't make the same mistake I made. Please tell you and your family, please donate blood. I'm a regular donor now. This, I think, is really amazing. This is a picture from a still picture from a security camera across the way. And this is Lover's Point. Out here, you can see the pile of rocks on the upper left. That's Lover's Point. Here's the jetty from the beach. You can see right here, this jetty. The beach is right here, our side of the jetty. You come back across the parking lot, across the street, and we're up on a second floor. And this still from a security camera caught the shark. Can you see this out here in the water? You can see white and dark. The white is the splash, the dark is the shark. I'm in its mouth there, presumably. Now I'm going to back up and take another shot from this camera, but this is 3 minutes later. This is 3 minutes after I started yelling for help. You can still see off on the right there. I'm no longer zoomed in. You can still see on the right that I'm out there, but now you can see their paddle boards. You can see the white of the paddle boards. The rescuers and the surfboards are there to bring me in. They're starting to bring me in. This is 3 minutes after I started yelling. Look way to the left over here, all the way to the left. That white truck, that's the ambulance. The ambulance arrived 3 minutes after I started yelling. Amazing. How does that happen? Well, it happens because people pay their taxes and people want good public health services in Pacific Grove. So public health is paid for. This, to me, is as fine an example of love your neighbor as I can think of. The community has decided, through taxes and through their politicians and through their support of public health, if you're a trauma victim, but you don't die immediately, we're going to save you. 3 minutes. Unbelievable. Will I walk again? The surgeon came in the day after my injury. I had surgery on Friday. They left my legs locked straight. And this led to a discussion between my wife, Brita, and me. What do I need to recover to live a good, rich life? And we discussed this for a while, but we decided if I never ride a bike again, I'll be, if I never run again, I'll be okay. But boy, I sure hope I can walk. If I can walk, I'll be okay. And that set for us a goal. I want to be able to walk. I know there are people that live good, rich lives without the ability to walk, but I I know if I can walk, I'll be okay. If I can't walk, I'm not sure. So that was the goal, to be able to walk. The story went viral, but I'm not going to talk about that. I got wonderful care in the hospital, but you know, hospitals are extremely difficult. This crowd, everyone in the audience here, you've all been in the hospital, or your spouse or children or parents. You know how difficult it is. I won't talk about that other than one thing. Early on, I started having these visions. I'd close my eyes and had these horrible visions, just pictures moving and it was amazing, but scary kind of stuff. And then spikes would come out of all the pictures. And I thought, oh my God, this is PTSD. Those spikes represent shark's teeth. We called the psychiatrist at the hospital. They gave me medicine to calm my brain down. I love Ativan. They calmed my brain down. I could sleep. And then I stopped taking opioids as the pain disappeared. And as soon as I stopped the opioids, all the visions went away. I don't have PTSD. I don't have nightmares, but boy, I was sure afraid of it there for a while. I came home, and there's a lot to say here, but I'm going to skip to the physical therapy, this third bullet. We asked the physical therapist, when will I be able to walk? And they said, well, it's going to take 3 months for your wounds to heal. It's going to take 3 months to strengthen. So like 6 months. Well, 6 months was Christmas. And I thought, what a beautiful gift to be able to walk by Christmas. And that became my goal, walk by Christmas. And every day I was thinking, okay, Christmas, I got 6 months from now, I'm going to be okay. And every day was a slog. To get through each day was hard. I could do nothing. I couldn't roll over. I couldn't go to the toilet. Couldn't do anything. And my daughter said, Dad, you're living wrong. You're not doing this right. You have to find joy every day. And I said, I'm going to walk by Christmas. She said, we're going for a picnic. I said, I don't want to go for a picnic. She said, we're going for a picnic. What can I do? I'm in the wheelchair. She started wheeling me. She took me 2 blocks to our local park because she was going to have a picnic, because she was going to show me that I needed to find joy. And we got out there, and it was a nice day, and we're at this local park and eating a sandwich at a bench. And a woman came walking by, an elderly woman, sort of hunched over with a cane. And there I was. I'm in the wheelchair with my legs locked straight. And she walked by. She said, how you doing? And I said, well, I'm doing fine. She said, you don't look fine. And I said, and my wife said, well, he's recovering. And the woman said, recovering from what? And Frida said, well, he's recovered from a shark bite. And this woman said, oh, I thought maybe it was you. Our whole block has been talking about you. We've been praying for you. Oh, we just wish you all the best. And she left. And I turned to Alice and said, Alice, you're right. I need to get out and find the joy every day. And that became a real thing for us. I still had this goal, walk by Christmas, but every single day we made sure to find something fun. And I couldn't do much. I was in a wheelchair. So it might be that I'd go walk for a block. I actually set up a phone call. Every Tuesday I was calling Kristen and somebody else, and people were coming over to push me around in my wheelchair for a little walk every day. Every day we found some kind of joy. Why did I get bit? I got bit because there are way more sharks in Monterey Bay due to climate change. The sharks have moved north as the water got warmer, way more sharks, and also conservation. There are simply more sharks in general because conservation works. This is a picture from the north part of Monterey, a picture of a drone. All those circles are basking juvenile great white sharks. These were not here before 2014. 2014, our water warmed up 5 degrees. I know that because I swam in that water. So there are just way more sharks than there ever were. My daughter thinks I was bit by climate change, and she's got a point. If you want to do something about climate change, the best thing you can do is electrify your home. Tell your family, electrify your home. Did you know the Inflation Reduction Act will give you $15,000 to $20,000 or more to electrify your house, to update the wiring, to replace your gas furnace with an electric heat pump, to replace your water heater with an electric heat pump water heater, to replace your stove with an electric induction stove? Go to rewiringamerica.org, rewiringamerica.org. Click on the calculator. It depends on your zip code and your income, but there is enormous amount of money. We all need to do this. What restored me to health? Let me just talk about the financial real quickly. My bill was over $1 million. But I have to pay almost nothing because I have good union insurance. Boy, I wish everybody had good insurance. And you know what? I'm going to skip some of this because I don't want to go too long. Here's me exercising and finding joy. Kristen, if this doesn't work, let me know. This is the first day back at the swimming pool. Once my wounds had healed.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
And that was the first time I was able to move independently. And it felt wonderful. Stop that. There we go. In the early October, we gathered all the people that had been helping us, and we threw a big picnic dinner at Lovers Point. The whole community turned out. These are the people that were visiting. They brought us meals for 6 weeks. They visited, they sent cards, they sent letters, and this was our big thank you event. And for me, I thought, I'm no longer the shark guy. Here I am. You can see me. I'm in the middle, in the front here. I'm using a walker. I was out of the wheelchair. I thought, this is it. I'm not, this is the end of it. This is the beginning of me just going on my own. We don't need the help anymore. And I thought it was all over. I thought I was done. Well, I was wrong. I had learned a lot of lessons. Let me just tell you one quick story. It's the Winnie the Pooh story. One of my bicycling friends, Tony's in his late 70s, he went to the local bookstore to buy me a gift. He wanted to buy me a copy of Winnie the Pooh. He went to the clerk and said, I'd like a copy of Winnie the Pooh. Now, not the softback. I want the hardback. The clerk, he said, do you have it? The clerk said, I think so. And she went and found it and brought it back. And she said, Tony, she didn't know Tony. She said, let me guess. This is a gift. Is that right? And Tony said, yes, this is a gift. She said, well, I can gift wrap. Do you want it gift wrapped or do you want it in a gift bag? He said, oh, I don't know. He said, help me figure this out. It's for a friend of mine who was bit by a shark. And I don't know if I wrap it, how do I get it to him? And the clerk said, oh, don't worry about getting it to him. I'll give it to him. It's my dad. It's my daughter, Rebecca, works at the bookstore. And she brought it home. And there I opened it up out of that gift bag. And it's a Winnie the Pooh. It's a kid's book. I thought, that's strange. And then it hit me. Oh, this is someone who has been through significant trauma. This is someone who knows I can't read. The medicine, the trauma, the whatever, I was unable to read. And I opened the book and there's a note in it. It said, Steve, this is from Tony. He said, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with colon cancer and given a 50-50 chance of lasting the year. He said, and through that trauma, I could not read. He said, this is the first book I was able to read. The words are very short. The chapters are short. It's pretty. I hope this book helps you like it helped me. And sure enough, it took me a week, but I started to read and I managed to finish Winnie the Pooh. I am so filled with empathy and care and gratitude as a result of this very significant trauma. It's changed me. I know that all of you, you've all been through trauma. I'm sure that the same has happened to you. The person who runs the physical therapy facility said physical therapy is all about love. And I feel it. There's a level of empathy and gratitude and all that I'm sort of embarrassed I didn't have before going through this. I'm now in late October. I've now recovered. We've had the big party. I'm on my own. Here I am on the walking poles. I'm going to walk by Christmas. Everything is great. And then I fell. This is a reenactment Brita and I did yesterday, but this is what happened. We were out walking. We were out walking in the middle of the street with the walking poles. I fell, just collapsed. My legs had no power. My thighs, they were gone. There was no way for me to stand up. So she got on all fours and I did a tricep dip off of her back and she lifted up and got me standing. And I thought, phew, and I walked, then we kept walking another block. I fell again. And I realized that there's something really wrong. A week later, we called the doctor to get a new appointment. The kelp crawlers, this is November. There were 2 more shark attacks, not the same shark, 3 different sharks. And that has that's made a really big problem for the kelp crawlers. A few of them still swim at Lover's Point. Some stop swimming and some have moved to a different beach that is not nearly as pretty, but it's safer. You can swim right next to a shallow sandy edge. In January of 2023, I went back to the doctor. He did a nerve conduction study. The short of it is, I asked him, am I going to walk again? And he said, probably not. No. And I remember those words. He looked sad. I was, according to Brita, this was really the first time that I was depressed for about a week. But at the same time, we pivoted. I said, well, okay, if I'm not going to be able to walk, I thought I was going to walk soon. I was willing to put up with all sorts of discomfort when I thought this is temporary. But once I knew this was basically permanent, I said, we got to make changes. I got a new walker, this walker in the upper left-hand corner. That's carbon fiber. That's top of the line. My brother-in-law put in railings in the bathroom and on the stairs. I told him I have to switch medicine. I returned to volunteering at the Monterey Bay Aquarium and I took an art class. These are the goggles that I drew in my art class. And these are the goggles that were thrown and discarded by the guy trying to keep me awake on the beach. Art therapy, I never knew about it, but I think it's real. Brita has retired. She was headed that way anyway, but she retired sooner. Rebecca, whenever anyone asks about sharks, she quickly but quietly leaves the room. And Alice can't get back in the water. She and some friends were going one day to go boogie boarding 6 months after this, for the first time to get back in the water. Halfway to the beach in the car, she just started crying. So it affects us. In March, I got some hope. They said, you know what? There's a chance that that Sanford has this nerve surgery. Maybe they can fix you. We won't know for another few months. I'm better than I was, but it's not clear my right quadriceps are working at all. Today, I have some nerve pain. I walk downstairs backwards. After I lie in bed at night, my legs don't work unless I exercise them. So I stole one of those little urinals from the hospital, so I don't have to get up out of bed in the middle of the night to use the toilet. But I'm on walking poles. I'm stronger. The other day, I rode a bicycle. I've ridden a bicycle 3 times now. I went 5 miles on my bicycle. Uphill's a problem. Stopping's a problem. Starting's a problem. But I did it, and I feel really good. I'm confident. I hope I can walk. If I can't, I'm pretty doggone good, and I'll be okay. A lot of people have it worse. You know people that have it worse. Some of you probably have it worse. My own younger brother has Parkinson's. He's had it for 12 years. I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. I hope I can walk, but really, I'm in a good spot. These are the heroes. They had the Carnegie Hero Awards. Oh, I've got 1 more minute to go here. Carnegie Hero Awards ended the 1 year of me being the shark guy. There was a celebration at Lover's Point. I have this wonderful little bit of video. I don't know. This one's sort of hard to hear. Let me try it. Kristen, if I shouldn't, let let's try it. This is me talking at the Carnegie Hero Awards at Lovers Point. More than 300 people showed up.
Now, when I say heroes, I want you in your mind to think Amy, Paul, and Heath. You got that? Listen. When I say the heroes, you respond with Amy, Paul, and Heath. The heroes, Amy, Paul, and Heath. They're different than you are. The heroes, Amy, Paul, and Heath. They're braver than you. The heroes, Amy, Paul, and Heath. They are more skilled than you are. Amy, Paul, and Heath. You would not have known if you were on the beach. You would not have known that stack 2 surfboards and paddle out to you as soon as possible. If you were on a paddleboard, you would not have thought while paddling as fast as you could to me to prepare mentally, recognizing that those screams were not normal, recognizing that that was probably a shark. You would not have been prepared to, if it was a sea lion, to smash the sea lion with your paddle. You would not have been thinking, oh, if it's a shark, I will shove the paddle down the shark's throat. They're more skilled than you are. I think that the heroes are more compassionate and more empathetic than you are. And, oh, by the way, the heroes are better looking than you are. Now, when I say
That's the end. That's the end of my being a shark. I'm no longer the shark guy. I'm just a guy living his life. Thank you for the chance to tell my story.
Okay, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm turning on the lights here and I'm just gonna see if anyone has a question. Okay, I'm gonna bring the microphone to Carolyn.
You talk about not walking, but if you use that walker, are you walking with the walker unaided? I call that walking.
I can't disagree with you. And yes, I can walk with walking poles now. I really don't use the walker very much. What I can't do is walk safely downhill. Really, I take very small steps when walking downhill. If my knees bend too much, I'll collapse. So yes, I can go about a mile before my legs hurt too much. So by some definitions, that's walking. But what I meant was to be able to take the 3-mile walk from my house along the ocean and then back to my house. If I can do that safely without fear of falling, that to me is what I meant by real walking. But yes, I can walk pretty well.
You are such an inspirational speaker, but I've been wondering, clearly you used to be very, very athletic. Are you still able to do some kinds of athletic things? And if not, what do you do with yourself all day?
Yes, I'm able to do some. I'm able to swim in the swimming pool. And the swimming pool is at the local community college where they have a fitness center right next to it. So my wife and I, we do swimming and we do weightlifting several times a week. I was just able to get on my bicycle and ride a few miles. I'm hopeful that more of that will come back. I do have a nice little story. When I was in the hospital, the anesthesiologist came by on the second day I was in the hospital bed, and he said, I got to tell you, when I heard the day before, so the anesthesiologist talking, he says, when I heard that the incoming trauma was a 62-year-old guy with massive blood loss, having been bitten by a shark, he said, I did not have a lot of hope for you. He said, but he said, your lungs and your heart responded like you were in your 20s, and that's what saved you. And then he came by 2 days later, again to the hospital room, and he said, I've decided to take up running again. So yes, me being in good shape is sort of a double-edged sword. The fact that I was in really good shape saved me, but also if I hadn't been in such good shape, I wouldn't have been swimming. I am filling up my time these days with taking classes. I'm taking a Spanish class, and I took that art class, and I'm volunteering at the aquarium, and I'm tutoring and some other things. So it's not the same. It's not this beautiful outdoor group exercise, but I am filling my days. Thank you.
Other questions? There's one more, Steve.
It's not a question, it's just a statement about you. And you've brought some joy to all of us. The story that you told about this horrendous thing that happened to you and how you survived it and who you are today is an inspiration, I think, to everybody that hears your story. And I thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That feels great.
Often do you tell this story to people? Travel around and do this video.
Did you hear that, Steve?
I don't think so.
He asked how often you give this talk. Do you travel around to give it?
This is only the second time that I've given a talk formally to a group like this.
My brother, that's because we're big friends.
I want to follow up what Don said, Steve. It's important for you to understand that your sister is a great inspiration for us here with her energy and excitement and all the things she brings to us. So we're going to say thank you to Kristen for bringing us Steve.
Steve is very good at musical bingo. I played that with my family. It was a big hit. Okay, there's one more question at least.
Did your damaged arm heal well? And do you drive?
Yes, my arm did heal well. I don't know if you can see. Can you see the scars there? I don't know. It's fine. There was no bad muscle damage at all to my left arm. It's just well, I don't know. It's not very attractive, but the left arm is just fine. And I am free to drive. Everything on my legs works except my quads, my thighs. So all the things that I need to do, my ankles work, my calves work. I can push the brake and the gas, no problem. There's one thing that I can't quite do, which you don't really need when you're driving. So I can drive, but I almost never do. If ever I'm going with Rita, she drives.
Any more? Well, Steve, thank you so much. We all love you at this point. You're part of our family. And yeah, get you back here in a year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to get to talk to y'all. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.